Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese episode 612. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Sellner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games, brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. Matt, it's E3 season, and there's only one way to celebrate by talking about all the E3s that were really good and wishing that they would happen again. Is there an E3 that sold you something you otherwise had no interest in buying?
Oh, I had this exact fucking line of questioning for you. Oh, man. Well, here's the good news. I have answers ready to go already. Watchdog Legion.
Oh, wow. What pushed you over the edge? What was the seller on Watch Dogs Legion?
The play as grandma, like when they switched to fucking grandma,
Mm-mm-mm.
and it was like play as
You are
anyone.
always asking for a play as grandma mode in most games. You're like, man, Doom the Dark Ages is pretty good, but they could have just made a play as grandma mode. I bought a Wii because of E3. I had no
Oh.
interest in Wii. Like GameCube, I'd like appreciated from afar, but who cares? I got a PS2. And then when they announced the Nintendo Revolution, I was like, eh. And then seeing specifically Wii, but specifically Virtual Console at E3 2006, I was like, oh shoot, that now that's something neat. I can play the old stuff and the new stuff, and I was sold. Um, we're gonna talk a lot about E3 today. The episode title is The Evolution of E3, but many keen observers will notice that E3 has more than evolved, it has died, but it lives on forever for us. Yeah, today it's Summer Game Fest, unfortunately. Well, maybe, I don't know. We'll weigh in on that later. What I thought we would do is talk through kind of where E3 started, um, where it changed, how it died, and what it is today. And Matt, you kind of pitched this episode way back when we were mapping out our 2025 year, and you wanted to focus a lot on sort of the transition between this huge press conference to okay, and can we click play on that trailer? Like where it really shifted from this event to, yeah, right, like just like, hey, look at this. You happy? Okay, well, here's another one. Oh, okay.
Now here comes a
Um,
mystical land from the developers, or from a developer you may know. Dun dun.
yeah, that to pull from Kyle Bossman, it's just like the we're excited to bring you into the
World.
world of Florel. Yeah, like whatever stupid name your thing is that no one has any attachment to at all.
Oh,
Um, Because if it's Midgar, you wouldn't say like we're ready to take you back to Midgar. You know what I mean? Like
no,
you'd save
you,
that.
you don't have to
Yeah,
say it. You just show the imagery. If
yeah.
you
You
know, you
only want to
know.
tell us about Tal Ceti 4 when we have no idea what that means. So I broke down the eras of E3 sort of personally in a way. And I thought we'd talk a bit about each of those as we went. Here's how I defined it. And please tell me if you agree, disagree, if you want to add an era to talk about, etc. But um I have and this is mostly in chronological order, but I have the magazine era. So this is the era where I really didn't even know what E3 was. I didn't understand the concept of E3, but I would occasionally just like look through a magazine and you'd see just our E3 coverage and you'd see them breaking down the latest announcements in video games. But I didn't really like grasp E3, I have the TV era where these are starting to be broadcast on like Spike and G4. I think those are the main two, right?
Yeah, I think so.
It may have only been on G. Was it on Spike even, or is that just the VGAs?
I feel like something was on the spike.
I think they had to have had it. It was the channel for men. I mean, how could they not have E3 coverage? But the TV era is the one where I remember watching conferences for the first time. because back then you couldn't easily stream on the internet or watch video on the internet outside of like a teeny tiny little thumbnail size thing in your real player. I've got the website era. This was reading IGN and OneUp and GameSpot to see what's happening and follow coverage and check in with news, and also start to like listen to podcasts about things, which kind of dovetails into the giant bomb era of E3 for me, which I do feel like my attachment to E3 through Giant Bomb became a different level of attachment with E3. Watching Ryan early on host those things and then Jeff take it over doing the whole Giant Bomb at Night stuff with a rotating panel of so many people from the industry coming in and talking about what they were showing or what they ate that day or even worse or whatever. Like there was always something. And I'll kind of extend the Giant Bomb era into like the 8-4 hype train episode every year as well, because that was another big one of like those. I still will go back and listen to those old 8-4 E3s sometimes, just when I need to like feel alive again. Then there's this other weird era which happened, which was our coverage of E3, because we've had a podcast now for 13 years. So there's plenty of coverage by thefreecheese.com in our own right, watching things, reacting to things, and doing sort of recap episodes and whatnot. We've done those sort of in like, you'll see, we've done those in sort of varying degrees of intensity over the years. Then I've got the death era, which is where, to me, I feel like part of it was Nintendo transitioning to a digital event, but also like it still kind of worked. Like E3 was still E3 despite Nintendo making that move. I just feel like that was sort of like the early pivot in the river, you know what I mean? Like the land started to move and the water's moving in a different direction. The final like, oh, the dam is gone, or whatever other water analogy we can put in there, is when Sony left the show. I feel like when Sony actually pulled out and they didn't have a physical presence and they weren't, that was where like they did that one like let's parade everybody around to
Yeah,
different
that was
stations.
weird. Just listen
It's a
to
bizarre like,
they had the concerts on that one.
yeah, like it was a weird experience for us at home. I think it was way worse for the people who were there. It was just very disconnected. They were trying something different, I think, before like completely bailing, and then they bailed. And once they bailed, the writing was on the wall. But then, yeah, like the trying to take that show public changed things. Yeah, you know, that those are the eras of E3 for me before we get Summer Game Fest. So, is there anything in there you think I missed before we start diving into?
No, and I appreciate you breaking down the eras in that way because I'm a late bloomer to E3. I think in the scheme of things, I don't think I become aware of it until I don't know. Let's realistically say like 2010, 2011. I don't even know exactly which year I started really watching the conferences, but
Yeah,
yeah, no,
I'd
kind
call
of
that the website era.
yeah, kind of just seeing like the IGN articles always leading with E3 colon. And then the
Yes, yeah, yeah,
articles
yeah.
would come out like 2 minutes apart, and it would just be like a paragraph thing with a "stay tuned for more coverage." ... at the end of that paragraph.
Yes. Uh, yes. A very like rapid fire, like where they're not just like rehashing a press release, they're reacting in real time, but it's a, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
full web page you're reading. Yeah. So let's go back to the magazine era. Do you remember reading magazines and ever catching E3? Have
Nope.
you gone back and looked through anything?
No, I don't have any. I don't have really any magazines besides like the stuff you put in Discord or whatever, the pictures. But
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that, I don't know. That's not me actually flipping through a magazine. But no, I like.
I
I'm pretty. Like I said, I don't. I'm. I've said it before on air. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm like 90% positive that EGM was the magazine that I did get. But I
yeah.
do not recall like ever seeing the letters E3. Or
Yeah, in a way that's like
yeah.
and I like barely vaguely remember it and am probably supplanting memories with you know what I mean, like more modern experiences. I still recommend for you and anybody, just like if you're slipping off into bed or you're just hanging out, instead of like scrolling through some trash website, go to archive.org and just read old EGMs just for fun.
I am
Look,
excited. I mean, this is pivoting a little bit here, but like
no, hit it.
Game Informer coming back and that whole archive. I am excited to kind of
Yeah.
start scrolling through that as they load up the archive.
Yeah. Um, I've gone through some of those like now because I think right now, as long as you're just signed up with an account, you can start looking through their archives. I do intend on subbing to them when they're live again, just because I love the idea of getting a monthly magazine
Me
again.
too.
So much
Yeah.
so that I just did this. I signed up for Nintendo Force, which is the spiritual successor
Oh.
to Nintendo Power, by one of its.
What was
Well,
that
no,
map
this
on the
this dude
back?
wrote.
Is this a World?
Oh, it's a map of Mario Kart World.
Oh, World. Okay.
Yep. And then there's this included two posters. I have them over there in the magazine rack, but they had two full fold out posters. One was like a one was a Breath of the Wild thing. I forget what the other one was. Do they have it written here? I don't know. But yeah, magazines are dope. Oh, there you go, Matt. If you can make it out
Oh, there
there.
it is. That's gonna give it to
There you go,
you.
your little preview.
Fuck yes.
I mean, like, so for the like, I've got that. I also just like have another one like at the ready to read, just cause this is what is this? Oh, this is Nintendo Power. This is the special Spider-Man edition.
Oh.
When you need it, you know, because you're kind of always gonna need it. What
I thought it was gonna be a Spider-Man, the movie, the game.
nah, a little bit earlier than that one. This
Oh,
is
is that the
January of
Activision one?
2001.
Is that the good one?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah. All right.
yeah. No, and like, yeah, I just got this recently, and it was just like I was very, very ecstatic. It's got the full cover. There's a whole letter from Stan Lee in here. There's an ad to win this sick uh fishbone guitar in the style of the guitar from Majora's Mask. Pokemon Pop Tarts, which I
I feel like I
remember.
remember. Yeah. Okay. All right.
You want to see them? Let's little flashbacks here. Oh, this camera's killing me. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if I ever bought that, but yeah. Well, obviously I wouldn't be buying it.
That's
It'd
the
be
fun,
mom and
but
dad.
that's the
Mom
fun
and
of going
dad.
backwards, man. You climb back into an old magazine, you never know what you're gonna find. Um, for me though, like back then and even now, like I feel like the references to E3, it's always just gonna be like pictures from the show floor. EGM was always gonna have a lot of booth babe pictures. Like the only thing I think I can remember from like, hey, here's a picture of a guy on a stage is your boy Peter Moore with his Halo 2 tattoo.
Yep.
Like that's probably the extent of it, but I don't remember much else. Um and it's the funny thing I realized as I was putting these together is like the way that E3 evolved also kind of coincides with the way our media consumption habits have evolved, but also like how we've grown up and changed too. Cause like our like the magazine era, like we're younger, we're not like video games aren't like the one thing. There's, I don't know, life and other things outside of video games, I guess. Not anymore. But like, yeah, exposure to the stuff is like kind of what you get in front of you. Like you know what I mean? Like I didn't know in the magazine era. I knew what Nintendo was. I knew what different companies were, but like not to the point now where like I can name you like six executives on the board and like which
No.
directors made which game. Like the stuff that we know now, like the fact that my phone shows me just as many pictures of like CEOs in my featured photos as it does like my dogs or loved ones or whatever. Like, yeah, totally different era of things. So that gets us into the TV era, which is the part where you can start to watch these on television in some fashion. Um, do you have any recollection of watching these on TV? Were you ever exposed to them? Did you ever like
I
tune in and say, "What's this thing?"
I can't remember. I want to say I have to at some point start watching these somewhere, but
Especially
like,
if I mean, you were watching like X Play and Attack of the Show and stuff, right?
yeah, I mean,
So
not every night, but yeah, definitely would see X Play whenever I could. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
because
like,
they would do those lead ups like E3's coming, our whole E3 week or
yeah,
whatever. You know, they'd have the
yeah.
yeah, you had to have seen it. The ones I remember most of this era, it's the 360, PS3, and Wii generation of things, where it's like all of those press conferences, seeing what they were announcing, seeing the Wii stuff get announced and the Virtual Console stuff. Um, the other one I remember specifically with Wii was watching. I was on a family vacation at the beach with and it was a thing where it was like brought friend like my brother brought a bunch of his friends, I brought friend and girlfriend. So Akko, our mutual friend, was with me and we went to the beach and then like skipped out early, or we were gonna like bail on dinner or something because Nintendo's press conference was happening. And I remember like there were people like doing something on the main TV and other people were like showering before we went out. And I just remember like standing like awkwardly in this one room that happened to have a TV like up there, and Akko and I just kind of watching the Wii presentation. And it was the year with like the Ravi drums and the Wii Fit and the Shaun White snow, all of those things that have now been like memed to death. And we're just watching it live, like kind of into it, but also kind of like what happened? Because we'd also like both gotten way hyped about the Wii and camped out for the Wii together and all that stuff. And then like to kind of see the natural evolution of that console, but played out through how it was being presented to us each year. Um, but that was still like outside of like checking regular websites, which is kind of the next era. Like I think seeing those press conferences annually was the first like taste of that regular news cycle of like following video game stuff. Like it was always that thing to look forward to, right? And like obviously there's always a news cycle with anything, and there was before, there was after, but something about like that TV era was like, okay, well that's the big, now I know to start tuning in, and like it became that regular thing. Uh like in the website era of like starting to pay attention to personalities on websites and listening to podcasts and following coverage and streams and broadcasts. Like once we got to that point where like YouTube was more viable, um, not every site was necessarily set up for streaming, but like they were getting there too. Um, but that stuff, and I think that's where you kind of step in as well, right? Like this is where we're getting into that.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, because I mean, you're talking like late PS3 era stuff, and like I fully remember the reveal of Destiny at Sony's
Yeah, dude.
event, and that being a big deal. Some of that stuff that the PS3 kind of took on the chin, not so much early on. I missed that whole reveal. I missed that era, but like soon after with like Kevin Butler and stuff like that, that's when I start to remember things. Don't remember where I'm watching it. Probably online somewhere, but I just don't know where exactly.
At that point, like GameSpot was streaming things. Giant Bomb was pulling from the
I'm
GameSpot streams, but also like they were setting up cameras there.
yeah, I
IGN
was
was
gonna say I'm
streaming
sure
it too.
IGM maybe was probably the spot I landed on.
Yeah. One Up was not necessarily streaming stuff, but they had podcasts and things around it. Um, but yeah, I'm right there with you. Like that's also where like I think we both started to get indoctrinated into like the PlayStation stuff, because that tail end of the PS3 life cycle was good. There was a lot of like excitement around PlayStation as a brand where there just kind of hadn't been for a few years, and it was E3 where like these big spectacles became just that, and it was something that was like exciting to tune into. You had the fake out of David Jaffe and the ice cream truck, and then
The
like
fake out of Killzone 2.
The yeah, the bad fake out of Killzone 2. Like I remember Kobe showing up at one of them to like stand next to Jack Trent and awkwardly like show. That was like the move year, like showing off how you could use the move in NBA 2K11 or something like that.
Ooh, was he on the cover of
Uh,
12?
he was 11 and 12 back to back Michael Jordan years because they had that big deal where like
I
they
thought he was
got
2K14.
Jordan.
I thought he was 2K14.
Let me see.
2K11. Oh, you're right. Shit. 10. 10. 10's Kobe. 11 and 12 then are
10's
Jordan.
Kobe. Okay. So yeah, that makes sense. He probably would have been there for that, and then Jordan. I don't think they got Jordan on stage,
Nah,
but
dude.
yeah,
Jordan wasn't in a hole in his
right.
gambling debts that year.
No, he skated by. Um, but this was the part of like that was the. I don't want to say it was like the thickest of E3, but this was definitely the thing where like E3 became like a thing. I don't think just for us, but I think for everybody, right? Like it was always a thing, it was always whatever, but like E3 was created as and designed to be a like a retail show. You know, it was a press show to show off. Like it spun out of the Consumer Electronics Show because they were tired of fighting against consumer electronics and porn because there was like the porn thing somewhere in that same convention center. How do we get our own space? Okay, let's make one. And they made one with E3, and then the idea was let's bring press in. It's why we call it's a press conference, right? Like it's not like today. And I think that's what happened is like we get to a point where these things are in the magazine TV era, even in the TV era, they're starting to get there. But some of the early ones, if you go back to some of the early broadcasts that were, I think, more publicly available, you were still getting stuff like it's so funny. Like if you go back and watch the Nintendo stuff from like 2002, 3, and 4, you'll see like Peter Main and those dudes get up with like pie charts and they're talking about like growth and sales and like numbers against competition and like how's the GameCube. They'd pull these weird stats when they like weren't winning and they'd talk about like, well, if you look at the market of this versus this, like this is how we're succeeding. And like, can you imagine like Jeff Keighley getting up on stage today and being like, hey guys, we're gonna bring out this, we're gonna talk about the like no one's
I
wants to
thought it was
see
gonna,
that. I
yeah.
want to see that.
We need more Chick Hydra Man. That's what we do need.
It's,
Let's talk about those numbers. What's the Hydra Man bringing in?
I want the Hydro Man to break down the sell through on all physical game card units. But like, yeah, that stuff was a weird era. The shift happens where like you kind of go from needing to look at the personalities to get the and the journalists and whatever to get the news and being able to watch the news yourself, right? And like tuning right into the press conference, watching it. We've kind of shifted now because there's so many people now that like stream over this stuff and talk over it that you're kind of like getting both. But yeah, it was this era where it was like, let's just watch these things directly, see the shows broadcast, um, and be able to have our own reactions to it. The giant bomb era, I think for me is another part of this where like there was just such good coverage happening post all of those shows. And traditionally, remember, like E3 was the show itself was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? But you'd have press conferences starting on Monday afternoon, evening. They would go through Monday night, and then Tuesday morning, Nintendo would do theirs, and then the show doors would open, and everybody would go get to play stuff, and you'd be kind of tuning in to see like reports coming back. And the fun thing there with the reports coming back, like in the website era, if you will, was not all of them would do it, but a lot of times you get these weird announcements that would happen like out of nowhere, where it's like, hey, we just went and saw Smash Brothers behind closed doors, and Sakurai confirmed Pac-Man's in the game. Like stuff like that happened, like wasn't in a direct, wasn't in
Mm-hmm.
whatever. It was just sort of like you were still like reading to learn these things. That was fun. The Giant Bomb stuff. How much of that did you watch of the like on the couch
I didn't. I
interviews?
never watched Giant Bomb until like meeting, like getting bored on this podcast and talking to you about and stuff. I really didn't know. I feel like I've heard of Giant Bomb and some of the people there, but I just never paid attention to it until more so starting to hang out with you more.
That the stuff like it's still so funny to go back and watch a lot of it now, but it was always cool like getting to hear because I mean they would pull in everybody, whether they were game developers, people that work in publishing, other journalists, people from other like I mean they would have wrestlers on and stuff like at some point because they were just at the show as well. That stuff was always good. For me, the other really, really fun part was by the end of it, where they'd always do a Phil Spencer segment and having Jeff and Phil just kind of talk for like an hour, 90 minutes or whatever. Getting Phil's kind of like direct insight on things and reactions to whatever. And you could kind of hear his philosophy about games. I mean, that stuff alone like sold me a lot on his vision of Xbox and like pushed me toward buying an Xbox at some point. Um, yeah, that stuff I definitely miss having that to go to every year. Um, and then we had our coverage. So we we had our like annual podcasts where it was like okay, because we would kind of align with each of the shows, especially like I think we really started covering it in like in a big way like 2013, 14. So at that point you've got like obviously Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo shows, but you also had Square and EA and Ubisoft shows. So we would do like a breakout podcast for each of those. We would do like day one recap, day two recap, that kind of stuff, like kind of watching all the conferences. We'd physically hang out in a space together and watch it. Um, Grill a bunch of food, drink terrible energy drinks, like play video games and like we did a lot of that too. Like here, like just grilling and watching stuff and like taking time off of work to do that. Like that was the I think for me a big changing point was in that like website era where we also stepped in and had a podcast and everything is like actually taking time off work to like make that something to just completely like I don't know soak in for a week. Like I wouldn't take the whole week off, but like definitely taking off Monday and Tuesday
Yes.
for sure. Because you've got to watch all those conferences as they happen. You need to like soak it in, read all of the news, and like just have that blast of information. Um, and that has certainly changed. The one thing I want to show is something I don't know that the public has ever seen. I got to be careful with what I pull up because there's like some addresses and stuff on here still. But um this one I think I can show this one easily enough. I'll cover the QR code kinda because I don't remember exactly what's on it. But so this was for E3 2014. And Matt, I apologize because by the time we were doing E3 stuff, I never did this. And I kind of want to do it again just for fun, but there's no E3 anymore to do it with. So, but just to set the stage, this was the year where we were going all in. Like we were a video game website. You know what I mean? Like we were gonna um well we'd also like launched the freecheese.com and the idea was that we were I was yeah, we were trying so hard to like be an IGN or whatever, but like we had a comics section and a movies section and a games section and a music section maybe. And like the idea is that we would each kind of oversee different parts of it and be like editors of those sections and whatever, man. Uh, my goal with this when originally creating the website was like, here's my living resume because I was tired of like I wanted to work at like an IGN or something, and the idea was like, let's build a website because I don't have a resume that says I've freelanced here or
Mm-hmm.
I've done like no one would give you those jobs if you didn't have the thing. So this was me creating that. So kind of aping all of that, it was like, well, how do we do this? We spent like a year kind of like not doing the like non-game stuff really well, but the game stuff I thought was working well enough. So then in 2014, it was like, let's just go in all on games. Let's retool the site, redesign it, just game focused. And that E3 was like, let's go all in and let's do the whole thing. So we had like, we, it's funny because like we rarely like reported news on the website, but that was, if you look at like the news section of the website, like the that category or whatever, like all the posts are so staggered, and there's this just like blast of June 2014 of just like 120 articles or something stupid where there's like way too much. So the idea was like we were just, as they were happening in real time, we're like writing them up and posting them on the website like it mattered. You know what I mean? Like just
Yeah.
like, okay, you take that one, you take that one, you okay, you're covering that, great. And I had like all the like press logins for everybody to grab press releases and assets and all that stuff. So to make it more authentic, I had set out one of these on the table for everybody as they arrived that had a full like dossier of their E3 stuff, as well as a lanyard that had their press badge. And I made custom press badges where each of the each of them had their me QR code. So if you got there and you weren't friends with one or another on 3DS, you could take your 3DS and scan the other person's badge, and you could add them quickly as a whatever. And then I think that the QR code that I've got like up here as a me, I think those are all like random things. Like this one might be like Carl Bertana Nanalewski or Shigeru Miyamoto. Like it's just a random me. I'll have to actually scan it with my 3DS and see what it is. I'll check that later. But like I grabbed the header from the E3 website and I like wrote a whole welcome thing. Like I'm not gonna read the whole thing unless you want me to, but it's uh welcome. We're pleased to welcome you to the Electronic Entertainment Expo for 2014. This is the biggest annual event in gaming. We're so excited you could be a part of it. Blah, blah, blah. We hope you enjoy our press conference offerings. Following the press conferences, we have a week of events for you to enjoy with plenty of hands-on demos to participate in. Additionally, we are hosting a tournament for the recently released Mario Kart 8 from Nintendo for the Wii U console, and you will find an official invite to the tournament attached in your press packet, which is in here. Along with your press packet, you should have found your badge, which includes the QR code for your Nintendo Me. You will need this badge in order to participate in the show, blah, 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 like all this. Schedule of events, things to look for experiencing this year. This has my favorite thing in here, though, which was an ad I put together. I signed it by Mr. Electronic Entertainment Expo, and it's like signed as like Mr. E3. And then yeah, I mean there's like a full breakdown of events, like each day, each conference, the like when dinner was, coffee breaks, when Sony happened, when we're recording each podcast, all those things. It was all a good time. The if I can find the fun one. Yeah, there's the Mario Kart invitation. And then we had the GameStop Power to the Players ad for I'll post this with the episode, so if anyone out there wants to see it, they can see it. But like I was looking back at this, I was proud of some of the stupid stuff I wrote on here. Like pre-order Half-Life 3 with at least $50 down and receive Half-Life 3 themed controller. And then there's fine print, controller not compatible with Half-Life 3, Half-Life 3 not confirmed for release ever, which is fun because it still isn't, and or maybe it might
be.
Trade in your original copy of Earthbound for the Super Nintendo and receive $1 toward the Virtual Console release of Mother 3. Fine print, Mother 3 not confirmed from North American release. Yeah, what was the other? Get 10% extra trade-in value when you trade your PS4 toward a brand new pre-owned refurbished PS4. Just fun nonsense there. But we did, like, everybody came, hung out, we watched the press conferences, we wrote a bunch of stuff. We hung out like way late into the night after the press conferences were done. This was the year I think Destiny had like no, that was the year before. I remember at one point like watching or like we all raced to pre-order our PS4s after watching the like Destiny showcase on PS4. But yeah, that was good. And then like obviously once you joined, that's when we started doing that's when we poisoned ourselves.
Yeah, there was that.
Lighter fluid. I don't, but we still like watch stuff. We took notes, like we were still recording podcasts and kind of reacting to everything, grabbing highlights. Is there anything from that era that stands out to you? Good, fun memories?
I mean, hanging out was always fun. The camaraderie of watching these stupid
Yeah.
events and getting mad or happy at various things. Recapping. I mean, in terms of specifics, I don't really remember. Everything's a blur. But no, I did like hanging out and doing all the podcasts. Because we used to, I know we did the after conference stuff for a couple years after each
We
conference.
did.
Did
Each
we
conference.
do anything beforehand, or was it just like a pre E3 episode with some hopes
We
and
definitely had
dreams?
like predictions shows. Yeah.
Was it for each conference, or
Um,
was that like the top of the day, and then we did an end of day recap?
I don't remember. I'm gonna type the word pre E3 into thefreecheese.com. Oh wow. I the last time we did it, we had like weekly episodes leading up to where we were doing predictions, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I figured. Yeah, I remember the predictions that usually beat on that our regular episode, but no. After every conference, we hop on the mics for 30 to 45 minutes or so, run through the conference, winners, losers.
yeah.
Nah, it was just I don't know. I have fun doing it.
Me too. And it like I wish we could do it again, but there's really not a good way to do it anymore, right? Like
No.
is there a back then it was very much like okay, EA, Ubisoft, Konami when they would show up, Square, they were all like fun to watch, but they were never like the big ones. It was always Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. Do you feel like any one of those three was consistently like the one? Like
Back
they always have the best conference.
I mean, Sony for a while, like when I started watching in like 2017 until then we ended up dropping out. Yeah, they seem to be hitting home runs. That was like the take back, PlayStation 4. Let's take back, let's just keep shoving
Yeah.
our foot down Xbox's mouth days.
Yeah.
And it was just relentless and yeah. You trying to think like it's like the God of War, like so many good moments from those Sony E3s, and I guess going back before I joined you, like just even like everything around the PlayStation 4, I remember just intimately like 2014 they come out $399 and they like
Yep.
everyone's cheering while on the board they're saying that you're gonna have to pay for multiplayer again. Then they release that stupid fucking here's how you share your game. Like there's everything. And then like Yeah, in 2015, Year of Dreams, Final Fantasy VII Remake, The Last Guardian, Shenmue 3. I think Crash was also, that doesn't get talked about as much, but Crash was in that one as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
Um, yeah, yeah. But no, I would say the one the one significant memory, and we talked about this the other. I don't know if you have it kind of in your notes to bring up, but like 2016, I wasn't with you all yet, but we definitely got to talk about it during a game of the year
yeah,
stuff. But
yeah,
like best moments, fucking Weed 3, the old Battlefield 1,
dude.
or
The
was that Battlefield 4? Was that beforehand? Now I don't remember. No, it had to be Battlefield 1. Oh god, now I don't
It
remember.
was one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because four was like 2013. Four was at the launch of what's it called? Um, but yeah, the Weed 3 era. Um, I'm looking through footage of Zac Efron high out of his mind. Because yeah, it was like Zac Efron, Jamie Foxx.
Snoop Dogg.
They all showed up. Yeah, Snoop Dogg's
Like
there.
Wiz Khalifa there? Like of course he
Wiz,
was.
yeah, there he is. There's Wiz, Mr. Wiz. Yeah, Zac Efron's baked. I'm, yeah, it's too good, man. Way too good. Um, I've got from that era. Let's see here. I guess pre the Matt era of the free cheese. I've got, and this is funny because it was 2015, just days before Shenmue 3 actually got announced. And Ben Barris said, I wrote, "What is your dream E3 announcement?" This was like our weekly question of the week or whatever post. And Ben wrote either Shenmue 3, Half-Life 3, or Mother 3 coming to the US. There's always a rumor that pops up about Shenmue 3 right before E3. And it was right then, 2015, when we got The Last Guardian open the show, Final Fantasy VII remakes, like right in the middle of it. And in that segment, it's also like, and also another thing that people have been asking for is this Kickstarter for Shenmue 3. And then what do we have? Let's see.
I mean,
This is our favorite
also I'm
E3
looking at
moment.
the little like blurb for that E3. Like Horizon Zero Dawn gets its first reveal. I don't think we knew what a sneaky good game Hitman was going to be, but first glimpse of Hitman.
Dude, yeah.
Destiny: The Taken King, like that was one of their best expansions. Batman: Arkham Knight was featured. No Man's Sky. I think that was the beginning
Yep.
of that arc.
Yep.
And then Uncharted 4, Thief's End. That's because I think it was coming out that fall, right?
Yeah, because at
Or no, that was 26. It came 2016.
it came 2016, but there was that like PlayStation experience that showed off like gameplay of Uncharted 4. I guess the
Yeah.
announcement happened at E3, and then like I remember seeing the gameplay for that for the first time, being like blown away at how good the what do you call it, the forest looked,
Mm-hmm.
like moving through some of the foliage and
Yeah.
whatnot. Yeah. Uh, your like big takeaway from E3 2017 was Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle.
I was thoroughly impressed. And
Yeah,
did I beat that game? I'm close to beating it. If I didn't.
I don't. You literally wrote the whole segment worked so well. I threw my credit card at Joe's TV, hoping they
remember
could take
doing
my
that?
money, and I remember that physical right there.
Dude crying because
Um,
Miyamoto's hyping up rabbits. It's like,
Matt's just like, yeah. Uh, you also really loved Metroid Prime 4, which we're about to play. It's finally.
God, that
You wrote,
logo. I'm glad I probably was just like excited to see the logo, but that led to the crux of so many fights at Game of the Year.
I know. You were right there. One logo, that's all it takes. Nintendo may have possibly won E3 with just a logo for Metroid Prime 4. The reveal of the logo in space was one of the few times I got chills this E3. This automatically becomes one of my most anticipated games for the Switch. and that is without seeing a single screen of the game. This goes to show you the weight of how big this announcement really is. We're still carrying that weight like almost a decade later. The Spider-Man gameplay reveal at
Yep.
E3 2017 was dope. Yeah. There's some good stuff. I always liked, I agree with you, like Sony was just like killing it. I think the Xbox stuff got really interesting once Phil took over. There was a lot of like goodwill stuff happening in that era, but Sony was still just so killer. And then Nintendo was always that thing where like when Nintendo showed up, it was so exciting. But when they didn't, like it felt like remember the Sony Wonderbook press conference year? Like that was like the bad Nintendo years was the Wonderbook stuff. Yeah. All right, we've spent a lot of time on E3. Let's talk about the death of E3 and where it is now. Um, I kind of teased it at the beginning or opened it up with that, but I think that was really it. Like Nintendo pivots from doing the press conference in favor of doing a digital event. And that sort of, I think, it was smart, but it was also like indicative of what was to come, where it sort of set the precedent that you can still show up to the show, have a full demo, have a full booth, and do all that stuff, but you don't need to have a press conference where you're renting out a theater space. And then it just sort of gets to that idea of like, if you're the publisher of your own games and you're running your own stuff, like, do you need to have a conference or can you just make a video ahead of time, control the messaging, because they had so many. Everyone does, right? There's always goofs at E3 because they're live, they're doing this thing, they've got people who are not necessarily always stage ready or camera ready or teleprompter ready. As much as they rehearse, like things just go wrong. And Nintendo had a couple of really rough years. Not terrible, right? But like just some big ones. And I remember like right before they switched to the digital event was when they had that Skyward Sword year. Do you remember watching that?
I
It
don't.
was when Bill Trinen and Miyamoto are on stage trying to demo the sword and nunchuck play, and it's like not doing what Miyamoto wants it to do, and like you can see he's like, oh, the bomb. Okay, let's just do this instead, and like Bill's trying to fill in for him, and like it's kind of there, but like you can tell even in that, like Miyamoto's getting a little frustrated. Like he's not mad, but his smile's dropping a lot more. And like there was all sort of reporting and stuff. I remember on like IGN and podcasts and stuff that was like, yeah, we saw Miyamoto like losing it in the hallways afterwards. And like, I think you don't want to have things like that, right? Like it's embarrassing. It makes the product look bad. It loses faith. Like in that sense, like Skyward Sword was supposed to be like the big thing that drew everybody back to the Wii for like one final whatever. And like if it's not demoing right and it looks bad, like you can do enough to get press to come and play it at the booth and then report on it, but it's still it's a weird thing. So anyway, they shift. I think that tells other people it's okay to shift as well. And over the next few years, we just start to see that. Um, then the show goes public where they're letting anybody come in. That changes the dynamic for press and people in attendance there, and then that just all gets a little weird. Do you remember a moment for you where you felt like E3 is not fun anymore, or it's different, or
Uh, there's not one in particular. It's just a bunch of the. It's a bunch of the little things. Like I remember like the documentation about like how they wanted like what was it? Like people walking around like with like ads for streamers or there's like a bit
right? Dude, that stuff sucked.
there was like so much of that. Like it never came to fruition, or maybe that was the year it ended up getting canceled or whatever because of COVID. But like there was
Yeah,
so much of that thinking of like how to like milk this for its monetary value and not like make it the cultural, embrace the cultural phenomenon it is, which took the life out of it. Oh, and anyone who was part of the ESA or had like a subscription to the ESA or press credentials or whatever, their shit got leaked. Let's not forget about that.
Right. I forgot completely about that. Yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah, so that didn't feel good either.
Just a big, yeah, it was a bad, bad, bad time. Do you think that COVID caused the death of E3, or do you think it was just accelerant to the fire?
It was accelerated to fire. Because think about it, like EA's not even there either. They're like next door for EA Play.
Yeah, right.
Like
They were
at
doing
that
their own
point,
parking lot show, and
yeah.
yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Like their last conference is next door on a Saturday, and they're talking about like Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah.
Like,
And you started to see that too, right? Like all of the big publishers wanted to try and get out of each other's way because you did have that like concentrated Monday, Tuesday thing. And then you kind of just hoped that you got your game in front of enough people throughout the show week that they would write about it. But then EA pulls back to Saturday from Monday. And then Microsoft moves to Sunday, right? Like it just sort of.
and then ESA came and make fucking room for the Ouya. They're out in the fucking parking lot next door hanging out.
Poor Ouya.
But yeah, like Nintendo was always the first one, but it was always like, well, that's Nintendo being Nintendo. They're always weird, like
right.
whatever. And then when Sony left, it was like, ooh,
yeah.
They were the ones that were actually delivering each conference too. Ooh, that's not good.
And then yeah, and I honestly like. I look at the PS5 as like kind of having a soft first party output, and I don't think I'm wrong in that. But I also think like being able to see that first party output year over year over year in that like hyper punch format really like strengthened PS3 and PS4 and for like to an extent Vita as well, but like I don't know. There was also other stuff like surrounding it where Sony was just different as a business, but like I watched a bit of the 2015 press conference again, and like they also talked about PlayStation View. They talked about like some of the exclusive shows. They were like weird stuff, but like still the stuff that like kind of put Sony and PlayStation first in your mind with certain things. Like even watching that now, knowing that PlayStation View is no longer a service, there was a part of me that was like, I wonder if I can get PlayStation View and watch like NBA Finals and stuff. I was like, no, you can't. It's gone. It's dead. But like I don't know, like it's just not there anymore. Now it's like every once in a while we get one of these state of plays or PlayStation showcase that shows you something that
might have stolen art. It might not release.
I forgot about that. But like even for me, like the big things they've been showing off in the last few years, it's like a God of War sequel, a Ghost of Tsushima sequel, like things that I'm not necessarily interested in.
Things I've fallen off on, like Horizon.
Yeah.
I mean, Horizon and, and God of War were like your big like year one. Here come your sequels, and I don't know. It kind of came and went for me. Yeah. You got Ghost of Yotai coming. I never really played. I didn't play a lot of the Ghost of Tsushima. Like,
I've been thinking about going back to that. Say like that and Death Stranding. I've been thinking like maybe I should go revisit those because I didn't see that. I didn't even try Ghost of Tsushima, but like I loved all of the Insomniac stuff prior to that. So, or not Insomniac, I'm sorry.
Sucker
Punch. Yeah. Insomniac's been the only first party studio I've been like consistently thrilled about. Like all the Spider-Man games have been great. I'm excited to see Wolverine. I hope that there's maybe something soon, but
I still play Naughty Dog.
Yeah,
game.
that yeah.
I'm probably playing Intergalactic.
I'm probably there too, more than likely. But so okay, I mean, then E3 like officially gets canceled 2020, which everything did. But then they never really find their footing to make a way back. So Jeff Keighley steps in and creates Summer Game Fest, which initially was not like a show. It was just sort of a way to, hey, all these other people are doing their thing still in a digital format, and let's just have a central repository for all of them for you, the viewer, to like find quick links to watch it. And it still kind of is that, but now he's also got kind of the old E3 in
Yeah,
a
it's like
way.
a
It's just he does his
showcase.
own showcase, yeah. And then he's got a physical event where press are invited to come and play games and people can show things off. So there are elements of that. How do you feel about the show output now in terms of like, are you still actively watching it the way that you would watch E3? What's your consumption level of Summer Game Fest look like?
If I'm around, I watch it. If not, I'll pick it up after the fact. I will probably say, like, I think I watched Sony's more so because they put it at like 5 or 6 Eastern, which is an easy watch after work. Like Microsoft has done stuff in like the afternoon, which makes it a little bit more difficult. I will probably watch Microsoft stuff, but like, yeah, I make time for Nintendo. Now I have to be careful with the way Sony, because I've caught on now to their bullshit. Like a state of play is minor, and then
Yeah.
we have a showcase. It's like their major. Then I've caught on to that. Like the state of plays, I'll catch the last what they end on. I'll see it after the fact, kind of thing.
The state of play is more like if you slash Mark or both like message about jumping into Discord and hanging out and watching that, then I'm more inclined just to hang out with you guys than I am to really see what's announced. But
Yeah,
like,
and then it also depends on the rumor mill too around that time. Like we got suckered
sure.
into that state of play because I thought I saw something incredible happening. I was like, oh, well, I kind of want to see it live when they reveal it. And then it came and fucking went. And I was real
What was
mad.
that one? I don't
It was
remember
Parasite Eve.
I was thinking that was happening, and what did it turn out to be?
I don't even know.
Just
Nothing.
nothing at
Just
all?
nothing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know if it was like, hey, this thing could be Parasite. I forgot the specifics of it, but yeah. Yeah, mm,
I think what I like thinking about it, big picture now, it almost feels like the Game Awards have shifted to the new E3 because everything
yeah, that's
now
true.
is so like, yeah, there's an audience and there's press, but it's not quite the same as having like that front row of just developers and people there for their nominations, but they happen to be the people that make games or are a big part of the industry in those front rows. And the I don't know if this is by accident or by design. The Game Awards still have that raw feeling of like at any point a man can run up on stage and talk about Bill Clinton being his rabbi,
Dude,
which is
yeah.
like the equivalent of like a Battlefield 4 demo crashing in the middle of its live 16
Yeah, yeah.
player test. The VJs still have that raw feel to it. The other stuff like Summer Games Fest, that showcase, and he does Gamescom's like main front
Yeah.
showcase too. They just feel so scripted and so like it's almost like, hey, I want to do a presentation, but the only way I can get people here is if I like this is like very like to the point and stuff like and that's
Yeah.
something we lost, like the live gameplay demos, like those extended looks. I think we lost that.
Well, and I think you're right, but I think we do still get those. The problem is the show's too small. And I don't think that any one company, because Xbox still does its own thing
Mm-hmm.
at the Xbox Game Showcase. Nintendo still does a Nintendo Direct, but they're not doing like a live stage thing. Sony, but like, so when people show up to gameplay their demo or they're showing stuff, it's like not a game you don't care about because that's mean. I don't mean it like that, but it's just sort of like, hey, we're a brand new studio making a first person shooter. A bunch of us used to work at Bungie and Activision and Treyarch and this and that. And like now we're making this new game called Cruella's Despise. And here it is, your first look. And like they show
In
it,
the
it's like,
world of
oh,
Cruella de Vil.
right, like And they show like some cool gameplay, some whatever, but it's like, okay, I get it. What's the hook? Oh, our hook is that this one is real. And it's like, oh, okay, great. Thank you. It's so cool. What a great hook. And then like they cut back and there's like some bald guy with like bad clothes and he's just like, yeah, we're really excited to be here. Thanks for having us, Jeff. Like there's like it just doesn't feel like like it's not
Yeah, no, I get that. Cuz
it's
like
not Shenmue 3.
I feel like something cuz even at the Game Awards this past year when they showed off Expedition 33, I think that was the first time it was shown, right? When they showed that gameplay where it was like turn-based but it was kind of QTE kind of thing, I was like, "Oh, that's kind of interesting." But then they kind of like
Yeah.
stopped. And like I
Yeah.
feel like in another conference or at an E3 somewhere, that would have had like life on Sony or probably Microsoft stage because it was day one Game Pass. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know, it just didn't have like room to breathe in the midst of whatever the fuck. The Witcher 4 announcement on a
Sure,
RTX
sure.
card that hadn't been announced yet, and the Last Guardian in that robot head ripping off, which I still think's the best thing. that show.
That was the highlight. But like that's the
Okami. Sorry,
thing, like
one more punchline. Okami 2 being announced, but their studio they just found their studio space 3 weeks beforehand, so that game's not coming for 5 years. Like,
right, Kamiya like just took the handcuffs off.
yeah, like
Yeah. I did those announcements like still they're big, but they're like I don't know. I struggle with this a lot because I wonder like, are we just jaded? And it's probably a bit of that. I don't want to discount that at all, but like, there's that, and I also think, and this is my other problem with where we're at now. It's a I say problem, and it's gonna sound bad that I said problem in a second, because I actually think this is awesome. It's just it's too much. So the current schedule for the SGF banner, if you go to summergamefest.com and you look at the list of events right now as of us recording, there's more stuff that'll probably be added. Chronologically, it's Summer Game Fest, Day of the Devs, Wholesome Direct, Women Led Games Showcase, Latin American Games Showcase, Southeast Asian Games Showcase, Green Games Showcase, Frosty Games Fest, and then Xbox Games Showcase. Like, it's a lot of stuff to watch. And like, I've tuned into some of those and like, they're all varying, they're all completely different, like production values, they're all completely different, like aesthetics and presentation styles. I think they're all great in their own merit, but like none of them ever have like that oomph of an E3, which I don't think we're ever going to get E3 back. Like it, Summer Game Fest is trying. Maybe this is the year where like the actual SGF show feels more like what one of those old press conferences used to feel like. Granted, I said before, like we had the Wonder Book years. We had even in 2015 where you get Final Fantasy VII Remake finally confirmed, Last Guardian, and Shenmue 3, you have PlayStation View, where Andrew House needs to come out on stage, tell you for a while about how watching PlayStation or watching TV on your PlayStation is the right thing to do. And like it wasn't always just like bangers, 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 but there's still like this thing where like just the stuff that's there is just like I don't know. It's not. It's a lot to consume, and like it's almost it just gets lost in a different way than it used to. I don't know how else to put it.
no, you're right.
That
It gets
said,
lost.
like I I do like to just kind of leave that stuff streaming and watch it as it happens as I can and whatever. Um, because I end up finding games that I wouldn't otherwise find. And I think that's the important part about where Summer Game Fest is now and what it's doing is like it is highlighting creators that never would have been on a Sony, Microsoft, Ubisoft stage, any of that stuff. So I think that rules because you get to see all these other things. And like for me, like the Panic stuff, whenever Panic puts out a new showcase or anything like that, whether it's a Playdate specific thing or just from their publishing arm, I'm always like I watch those immediately because I'm always like I love everything they're doing, the stuff they're putting out rules. I want to see what those games are. I want to play those games. And I do feel like we get a lot of that out of these other SGF shows. Um, the one that's not listed on there, which I was surprised wasn't like officially SGF sanctioned, is the PC gaming show, which also tends to have a bit of that too, where like that one can be kind of a wild, like there's an X factor to it that you're like you can catch you off guard. But that one sometimes has a lot of cool little games that show up, but big games that show up too that you're like, oh, I didn't that's didn't know that was gonna be there, or I didn't know that existed, and now I'm adding it to my wish list.
It's almost like a PC gaming show is like this cockroach. It's just it'll be there. Don't worry, he
Yeah.
won't die.
No,
Nuclear
not
fallout,
at all.
nah, he'll be there. COVID,
Yeah.
it was
But
your
he's a
nuclear.
cockroach with like cool shoes. You know what I mean? Where you're like, all right, let's see what you got there. I'll take a look. Uh yeah, I mean, has there been something at Summer Game Fest recently that feels as big as like some of the bigger E3 announcements to you? Like, can
I
you
I
recall a
can't
thing
even
you watched where you were like,
I can't even think of it as SGF thing that like it's part of a showcase. Like I remember that first one when they like it was just there was a countdown for like the first day of it. It ended up being Tony Hawk 1 and 2.
yeah,
That's like the only one
that
I
was big.
remember, but that was just like a reveal trailer that they counted down to as like day 1 of whatever.
Yeah.
I can't recall. I mean, I'm sure there's something if I give her
I'm
a
looking
good
back
look.
at some other things like Summer Game Fest 2023 showed off Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Spider-Man 2's release date,
Oh, okay.
Prince of
I,
Persia:
I
The
didn't
Lost
realize.
Crown,
I didn't realize. I think I was confusing that for Gamescom. I thought that rebirth thing was
and
Gamescom.
that's what a lot of happens like that where like the Summer Game Fest stuff, yeah, it doesn't always it's so muted that I end up feeling like, oh wait, was that Gamescom? Was it not Gamescom? 23, the Sega announced Sonic Superstars, that new 2D game. Alan Wake 2 had a gameplay reveal. There's some things too, like the Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name
Mm-hmm.
got a release date, but like a lot of that stuff, it's like games that were announced beforehand that we're seeing more about. But
Right
last year they had Lego Horizon Adventures, which uh
there.
that's like the biggest thing. Like that's the top of the IGN recap of Summer Game Fest is Lego Horizon Adventures. Quidditch Champions, Star Wars Outlaws. Sid Meier's Civilization 7. That was a big one. I remember when Civ 7 got it, and I was like, okay, that's something. Street Fighter 6 getting the Fatal Fury crossover. That was a big one. But like I look, man, I would love to put my foot in my mouth in well, I guess later this week, right?
Look, Enhanced will be there.
Um yeah, that does excite me.
That I saw that. That was the one that piqued my interest a little bit.
Yep.
Also,
Yep.
IO Interactive. That James Bond
Are
game's
they?
been cooking. What does
Okay.
that look
Yeah.
like? Or is it
See,
Hitman 2 on Switch? 2.
that's the tricky thing, right? Like is it the Hitman stuff on Switch, or is it that? Because like if you look I know last week the big thing that was like was all of the Summer Game Fest like list of partners got announced, and everyone's like, "There's a Switch 2 logo," and it's like, Nintendo is gonna make a commercial for the Switch 2 that runs in the middle of Jeff Keighley talking, and that's why they're on the thing. Like, settle down. Um, yeah, I don't know.
Magic the Gathering coming to Switch 2.
Right? No, that is going to be like, hey, here's a bunch of pictures of cards you can't buy unless you want to spend $21,000 on tradingcardgame.com or whatever the. Did you see that? I was like, I just looked to see like, can you buy them anywhere? And it was just like, yes, you can. $21,000 for a set of boosters. It's like,
What?
are we there? Because people are just reselling their unopened boxes now, and the price just keeps.
Is this just in general the Final Fantasy set?
The Final Fantasy set. Yeah, that was on one website I saw. There was
Fuck
a thing where it was like, hey,
me.
somebody else is opening up like pre-orders for something, so grab them now while you can. It was like one retailer or whatever, and then you looked and it was like, well, this retailer has it for this, and then here you can, you know, buy from resellers who were selling it for
I should have bought
two
the
thousand
box of
dollars.
100 and sold half of it. It would have paid for the whole set.
I,
Fuck.
you know,
Next time. Final
I
Fantasy
know.
10-2.
Well, we'll just wake up early that morning and go to Target because that'll definitely work for sure. Uh, I I do want to close out with some hopes. So going into Summer Game Fest this week, are there? I guess. Do you have any hopes? And I guess dream announcements is my other thing. Like, what's a like softball hope that you're like, man, I could see that happening, and I would be happy if it happened. But then also like, what's the thing where you're like, man, I'm still waiting on this.
Still wait on that. I don't know the answer to. I really don't know the answer to off the top of my head. I'm sure there's something that I'm forgetting about.
Parasite Eve remake.
That or the aforementioned Bloodborne on PC or Bloodborne 2, but there's just no realistic way that happens. Um,
More Dusk Bloods footage. Stay tuned.
sure. Um, I pulled out my predictions for this year to see if there was anything that I needed to hit.
Oh, right.
Uh, yeah, I mean, there's really nothing. I mean, I guess like, yeah, I mean, some of that remakes, and remasters, or whatever, just getting that stuff more playable, like a Parasite Eve or stuff um, of that nature. I mean, I know I made that dumbass prediction about Final Fantasy 17 at somewhere at a Keeley event, but um, I don't know, like it won't happen here, but like a Nintendo Direct down the line, like Super Mario Galaxy 3 ends up being the Mario game. That'd be really cool. Uh, but yeah, honestly, like I think the biggest like shock for me, if I saw it already at this point, is if Final Fantasy 7 Reunion was there already.
That would be surprising. But I do bet that game comes out for the 20th anniversary or 30th of 7, which would be 27. So they could tease it. But see, then it's like, is that a Game Awards thing?
I mean, Rebirth was at
And I don't.
SGF. You just said it. Remember, the rumors
Yeah.
were true.
Right. That's true.
And I thought he was
Um,
about to fucking whip out the Bloodborne dick. No, asshole.
I know. I I think like my soft, quiet, like, oh, that would be nice is like an update on Skate, an update on Let It Die 3, Tokyo Extreme Racer getting its console announcement because they just announced that they're extending the early access stuff out until September, Tokyo Extreme Racer. So like it'd be nice if that got an official console announcement for people to get behind. Um Dream announcements. Obviously Castlevania is still always there, but for me the thing I've been realizing that I really want that I haven't gotten yet is just like a bunch of Sega stuff. And I know Sega's got a bunch coming, but I want like weird stuff. I want these are softballs, right? Like Sega put out a Sakura Wars game back in 2019, 2020 for PS4. Just port that over to Switch. Just bring it over. That House of the Dead arcade game that I saw in Japan. Just bring it over. Like Fantasy Star Online 2, just bring it over. That Virtua Tennis game for PSP, up-res it and re-release it. Like, I want some of that stuff. That would be nice. Bring another Room Mania game out. Why not? Yeah, I don't know. Just generally speaking, more Sega would be good. We are getting it though. Like that Shinobi game's coming out end of August. Echo got kind of announced, so that's something. Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, dream game is still like if someone can show up and show off a Castlevania something.
I say this with pause, but I guess Metal Gear Solid 6 could be that.
Hey, that would be something.
I would say without pause if I knew Kojima was attached, but if he's not attached,
Yeah.
I say it with pause because we did get another Metal Gear game. It was called Survive.
Yeah. Which you could be playing.
I don't want to. Sorry. Running. I know we're running a little late here. I did want to ask. I apologize. I answered your question originally wrong about like a game that E3 sold me. I thought you were gonna leave. I kind of cut you off accidentally. I thought you were gonna say that ended up being like a flop. Watch Dogs was my answer, and now also having a whole episode to think about Rage 2. Fucking Andrew WK. Andrew WK sold me a fucking game, and it worked. And I played 2 hours of that game.
Yeah, that was a big swing. I forgot when Bethesda was doing shows too for a while.
Dude, Bethesda has some fun stuff. But yeah, no. I'm trying to think of I guess Horizon is to answer the question from before. But yeah, I was gonna ask you like, what was like something that got you excited, then just ended up flopping because games being shown at E3 are a completely different beast. And then if you want to start thinking about, I'm asking the question the other way around as well. What did you have zero interest in until it actually came out?
The one that like popped off at E3 that I ended up not loving was Castlevania Lords of Shadow. When I first saw that E3 trailer where like I forget the first one they showed, but either way it was like, oh my god, they're making a new Castlevania game. I was so stoked, and I ended up not liking that first game. I want to replay that first game because I've since gone back and played the second game and liked it way better than I thought I would. So I'm curious if like that first one holds up. And then going the other way, like what's a thing I didn't think would be good or whatever?
Yeah, or you just thought I was like, well, that's weird. I'll never play that.
Oh man. Nier, maybe?
That was my answer. Because that was the first time I saw Yoko Taro on a stage. I was like, who the fuck is that?
Yeah, like, what is happening? Why are we here? Yeah, that was definitely one for sure. Weirdly enough, watching a bit of that 2015 one, the Sony press conference, seeing Horizon 1 for the first time. The soundtrack is so good, and I had no idea. But yeah, seeing that one recently, I was like, did I shortchange that game? Should I go back to that game? Like seeing Aloy like zip around and like put the restraints on a big dinosaur. And
it has Monster Hunter qualities to it. Now that like I've seen the Monster Hunter, like there's definitely like you need the right arrows, you need to hit the right targets, getting the traps down for a specific, like there is definitely some big game hunting type stuff with it. It's a little bit more fast paced, obviously, but yeah. I would maybe revisit. I'm sure, didn't it get up-res to PS5 at this point or some shit?
Yeah, there's a PS. That's my other problem with PlayStation this generation is like they haven't put out a ton of new games. They just keep re-releasing all the PS4 stuff on PS5, and it's like, just
we'll get there one day.
Yeah, but everybody left. Now they're making Ratatan instead of Patapon 4. You know what I mean? Like,
And then
That's
I kind of wanted to end, and maybe not on this question, but as a food for thought for the end of this episode, are the two characters E and 3 the best characters in the entertainment industry still?
it still makes me feel happy when I think about it. Like I don't think about E3 being dead and gone. I think about that feeling of just like pure excitement. Anything can happen. Everyone is here.
Yeah, that
Um,
moment in particular.
yeah, but like I still look back on E3 very fondly and like it's the thing I think I still chase with any of this stuff, right? Like whenever there's a Nintendo Direct announcement, whenever there's the lead up to the Game Awards, even Gamescom, Tokyo Game Show, when those historically have been like smaller shows in terms of like big announcements, there's always that little part in the back of your head that like remembers the best of E3 and you're like, this is the
I
one,
mean,
this is where it's gonna
I
happen.
don't want to discount Tokyo Game Show, but wasn't that where the whole PT thing started?
That was Gamescom.
Fuck. God, they all blend
It was
together.
Gamescom 2014, I think.
I think it was 2014.
Yeah, because it was after the PS3 was out, so or PS4 was out. So yeah, it was Gamescom 2014. Gamescom middle of August, they dropped that, and then I mean, it never happened, but yeah, yeah. What do you think? Is that
I
is
think so.
E3 still magical to you in your heart?
I think so because I always tend to think, like you said, of the good times, the wild, like the anticipation. You always have to remember too, like there were the rumor. You always had like the rumor mills. So like, and there was so much stuff hit, but also so much stuff was just wrong. And so like sometimes those conferences were just like, all right, yep, we heard that. Remember like the Walmart Canada year?
The Rage 2 year. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
um, yeah, like that one really like that kind of sucked. That kind of sucked the win out of that year, and I think without that would have been a little bit more impactful. But like, yeah, I remember the surprise when the surprises hit, they hit. But I also remember like some of those conferences just being like, oh, yep, all right, I remember reading about that one.
Yeah.
Oh, yep, all right, that's that developer. Okay, we knew they were working on something. This is the one. Oh, it's just a sequel to that. Okay, yeah. I do remember some of that, but for the most part, I remember you said it like the everyone is here.
Yeah.
We three seeing that Final Fantasy VII remake trailer. I'm like, I know that,
Yo,
I-
have you watched that recently?
bro. I watched it every time I booted remake.
It is so good.
Yes, it's so
Like,
good. Yeah, that game
yeah.
is not the same as that trailer, but
No, no.
no, it went through development hell. No, dude, for a while, whenever I launch remake to the point where like I was out of rest mode and hit the main menu, they have that trailer on the main menu.
Oh my God, that's so good.
It's so good to watch.
And like that trailer's so good that I never cared about Final Fantasy VII. I wasn't a fan. I hadn't played it. Like, and it still is like this rules. You know, yeah, it's really, really good. I think the other part that I like about E3, to your point of like, oh, there's that thing, is because we've become so invested in all of this stuff and it's consumed most of our lives at this point. um, is like you can start to see the inkling of something. And if you just get like a fragment of someone's name or a studio or whatever, you're like, this is this is this. Like you can start to put these things together and like sometimes you're right and it feels awesome. Sometimes you're wrong and it feels even more awesome. And then sometimes it's just like, oh, okay. That's that, you know?
Said the one sad thing we won't get anymore just because they don't expose themselves as much without like the stage presence stuff is like we won't get that and like that is Andrew House. And when Andrew House is on stage,
You
we're in good
know,
hands.
yeah,
That's Sean Layden. Sean Layden always has
yeah.
something good. There's Jack Tretton. What's Daddy got cooking for us today?
Yeah.
Um, Reggie. I mean, even in the directs, Reggie was so dominant in the directs when
Yeah,
he was around for Nintendo of America. And then of course his stage presence was awesome when they were actually doing
for sure.
events. And then you had Don Metric.
Who was still, charismatic and entertaining and whatever. But yeah, you're right. Like those things were totally different. But even like not just on stage, like just the stuff that would come outside of it too, the interviews and stuff where they could be a little bit more off the cuff, but also still like with a PR person right off
Oh yeah,
camera, like giving them the death stare and making sure they're hitting the talk track. But like watching those interviews, like, a lot of that the aforementioned like website era of this stuff is when I'm delivering pizzas and I would like in between things, like I'm just checking like, okay, what's this interview? What's this clip? And like you're seeing stuff getting posted and passed around on social media, the forums or whatever of just like, hey, this guy just interviewed this guy and they said this, and it's
right.
all these like breaking things that you didn't expect. Oh man. I don't know. I am bummed we never got to go to E3. That would have been fun to like see the spectacle.
Yeah, yes and no. I think by the time you would have went, it was during this like whole like the public thing, and I don't know. I don't know. I would have rather been like we could have somehow gotten press and then be in like the pre like crowd like that
If we
day.
no, if yeah, if we could have pulled it off with because I remember hearing stories of people who like had a blog in similar fashion to ours and they were able to get their way into E3 or freelanced for something and they got to go
Yeah.
through that or whatever. Like if we could have pulled that off and gone to the show like when it was that era, like that would have been neat to be like walking around and you're like, that guy, this thing, this, whatever. Um, but having done a couple of these kind of experiences now where it's like a big thing like that, like it is also like a lot and it's maybe not the best experience like in terms of like consuming these things, but in terms of like what it was, the intention of it originally to be able to like see and preview games before they came out, I thought that was cool. I do like that Keeley has, again, I like that he's showcased and is continuing to showcase different types of games and different creators. It's not just like here's the stuff from the big, 5, 6 major game publishers. You're seeing things from teams of 1 to 100 or whatever. Like it's all over the place. But I also like that he's partnered so heavily with Steam to do the demo stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
Xbox does it too, where like those demos are right there to try, and you get a taste of that like show floor gameplay experience at home, which is kind of neat. So we will see what gets announced. I miss us being able to do like the big podcasts and the recaps and all that. It's like having that thing was always fun, but it just like it doesn't make sense anymore. Especially now when like realistically like the only big news to cover is going to be like that one show, and then,
Yeah, I mean, if we
we
like we took notes on each announcement, we just go through like, oh, well, that's all right. That's a farming sim. All right, and
yep.
then
And this one's a
this one.
farming simulator.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, this is like multiplayer game,
Hentai farming simulator. Got it. Yes.
or just the free to play anime game. Get one of those peppered in there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, what is it? MiHoYo. They're gonna show up
Mm-hmm.
for sure. All right, one more. Final what's one pop like this will never happen dream
Game
announcement. Yeah. Or
Silent
or hardware.
Silent Hills. Anything Kojima with Konami at this point.
Yeah. Dreamcast 2 was my gut reaction to that one.
That won't happen either.
No. Is Half-Life 3 gonna happen this year?
As much as I should say no, this is the most there's ever been rumors about it in years.
I know. It's weird. It's real weird. Keely's got a tight relationship with Valve. It could be the year. Look, 10 years ago, Ben said he wanted Half-Life 3, Shenmue 3, or Mother 3. He got Shenmue. Here we are with maybe it's time for Half-Life. Maybe in another 10 we'll get Mother 3. Hard to say.
Switch 3 equals Mother 3. That's going to be the campaign.
Stay tuned for our Switch 2 episode. I got updates on Mother 3 for you, dude.
Okay.
This was the kickoff to our summer season of the Free Cheese podcast. We got 13 hot weeks coming at you. Next week, we'll be back with our first game of the season, Geometry Wars Retro Evolved 2, where we'll discuss our time with that. We'll rate and rank it. Then we've got our Switch 2 episode coming up. Theoretically, later this week, both of us have a Switch 2 arriving. Or you have like 23 of them on the way,
Yeah,
I
that'd
think.
be, yeah.
Instead of going all in on Final Fantasy cards, Matt was like, I'm
I
just
mean-
going to buy all the Switch 2s.
I made a mistake. I should have got booster packs in hindsight. I know now next
I
time.
know. Well, now you can barter. Now you got a Switch 2, you can try and trade up for some Final Fantasy cards.
Final Fantasy Spider-Man's later this year. I'll remember this knowledge.
Yeah, I know. Those are already expensive too. I was looking at those too. We'll see. Yeah, we got tons of stuff. Check out the website, thefreecheese.com, for all of the stuff upcoming. And we've got a video breaking down our whole summer preview as well, on the website, on our YouTube page. All sorts of fun stuff. So come hang out, see all that, and enjoy Summer Game Fest, because it's all we have left.
Yeah, the Game Awards.
We'll see you next
December.
week. I guess you're right. Yeah, that's true. And Tokyo Game Show and Gamescom and all the other fun surprises. We do still get stuff, right? Like you kind of always know there's going to be a Nintendo Direct in February, in June, in September.
And on a random
You know
Wednesday,
that
you might
PlayStation will...
get Grand Theft Auto 6 Trailer 3. Who knows?
Well, that's the fun thing about random Wednesdays. You get Grand Theft Auto, but you also get like Switch Lite hardware. Like there's always... The random Wednesday is always a thing. Until next time, thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener. Thank you, viewer. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. See you next time. Bye.